Hi everyone! So it's me again, Yasmin, with yet another testimonial interview with one of our amazing clients. So the client that I will be introducing today is Susan Moe. Hi, Susan.
Hi, so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being in this interview. It's been amazing being able to speak to our clients about the service, what we do, etc. But of course, before we get on with the interview, please could you tell us a bit more about yourself and the business?
Sure. So I am a spiritual strategist. So I am a psychic, a clairvoyant reader, a meditation teacher, and I basically teach people how to tune into and listen to, and then also to trust their intuition so that they can live their lives with more intentionality and sort of with a higher purpose. Sometimes we're always like going through the motions and we're thinking like, there's got to be more to this. I'm not really fulfilling my purpose. So I teach people how to tune into their higher selves.
If you could tell us a bit more about like what made you decide to hire a VA.
That's such a great question. I had been thinking about this for a long time, but I just didn't know how to go about it. And someone that I knew had recommended Freedom Geek. And so I researched you, and everything from the very first call to all the emails to the interview process was so professional, and I just felt completely cared for. And I think what was happening was my business was growing, but I was wearing all of the hats. I actually had been thinking about it for several years. I just didn't know how to go about it until Freedom Geek came into my awareness. I researched it. I had a very, very good vibe, and you know me, I do everything by vibe. And
Yes.
so what I just had such a good feeling, and I immediately started the process. And the only regret that I have is that I hired her part-time because I was so unsure. And I think if I would have one piece of advice for solopreneurs like myself, who are, they're wearing all the hats and they're doing all the things, and they don't think there's no way I can employ somebody, full time. It's like, wow, when you see what that support can do for you, you will want that. So she helped me set up systems, and then we really focused. We started our work on setting up standard operating procedures. And so now when someone books a reading with me, I'll just send her a message, and she knows to set up all the steps and all the emails and the automations. And so those standard operating procedures were great. She reworked my website, and also she helps me run my community. And I think the main thing that is a little bit more esoteric is that she holds me accountable. Like, I'm technically the boss, but she, I'm meeting with her 2 times a week now. And so I know, like, I have to have something to show her for the work that I've done. And so it's great. I hold her accountable. She holds me accountable. And she's also just so friendly. I really like her as a person, and I really love working with her and having that support, the tech support, the task support, and then also in some ways just the friendship support has just been beyond my wildest expectations. I want to grow my business so that I can support her even more and bring her on even more full time. So that's the level of appreciation that I have for her.
Were there any like hesitations or fear that you had before hiring a virtual assistant that you were kind of afraid of? And if there are any, how did you kind of overcome that? If there were any like struggles or hesitations that you had in the beginning?
That's such a great question. I think it's a very common question. What's so funny is the number one question that I get when anyone asks me about a reading is they say that they're afraid. It's the most,
Yeah.
you might be afraid for all kinds of different reasons, but they are afraid of getting a reading before they get their first one. And I would say that I too had a lot of fears about getting a VA. What like the security issues, that I would have to babysit them, and it would take more work, and it would be a sunk cost, and what if it didn't work out and I had to let her go, and like all kinds of fears like that. And I think what is nice about the Freedom Geek program is that you have such robust systems, and the way that you have the interview process and all of that right from the beginning, once I got over those fears and made the appointment to book my first initial interview with Freedom Geek, then from then on, it was like smooth sailing. And then all the fears were gone, but it was just booking that initial call that I really was, could I really do this? Am I big enough to do this as a solopreneur? I think a lot of us feel like, oh, we're too small to have, and a virtual assistant or something like that. So I think those fears are very real. So I would just like to assuage anyone who is also experiencing those, that just give it a try. Just give it a try.
I love that you said that. Thank you so much, because that is definitely very common, because I speak to our clients when they have that discovery call about what we do, what are virtual assistants. That's one of the main concerns that they do have. They're very overwhelmed, they're scared. It's this unknown person that they're going to be letting into their business. So there's usually a lot of fear tied to that. Aside from that, Susan, I do have another question as well. If you were to choose one thing that you love the most about your virtual assistant, what would that be?
Oh, one thing. Well, okay. Besides that, she's just a lovely person, and I always look forward to connecting with her. She has a can-do attitude. She's very skilled tech-wise, and I always say, like, if this is too hard, like, or I'm so sorry, this is a really challenging problem. She's like, oh, it's simple. So for her, it's very, very simple, and she has a lot of those tech skills that I lack. So I think we complement each other really, really well. At first, I think that I was like trying not to bother her. And so we were only meeting like once a week. And then I think when I attended one of the Freedom Geek, one of those speaker things, and the presenter was saying, you need to, meet with, or Imogen maybe even was saying, meet with them every day or every other day. So we settled on 2 times a week. And that I think was really good. And then what I did was I just made a video every time I was doing something. I made tons and tons and tons of videos, and I sent those to her. And then I asked her if she would create like an SOP workbook kind of a thing. And so she has taken those videos and done that. And then also we work sort of simultaneously in a Notion page, so we can track each other's tasks and projects that way. But the onboarding originally, it does take a little bit of time. That's just the reality of it, but that would matter if it was an in-person assistant or a virtual assistant. So it was worth it. And also the benefit of that is that it helped me get organized on what those tasks were that I was sort of redoing every time originally, rather than creating systems. So it was great to have that onboarding. Even though it did take time, it benefited both of us.
Do you have any tips for our clients or people who are interested with virtual assistants who may be watching us right now? Any tips to overcome their fear of getting a virtual assistant?
I think the main thing is the problem is not the virtual assistant. The problem is not that, it's all a mindset. So, and that's good news, because that's something you can control. You can't control the experience of the virtual assistant, but you can control your mindset. So if you just go in with an open mind and say, what, let's see if I can try this. And again, it's like, I was thinking, well, I'm too small, I'm just a solopreneur. Why would I need to have a virtual assistant? And once I overcame that, then it was a no-brainer once to do that. So it's really about you going within, looking at your fears, saying, what's the worst thing that can happen? Give it a try.
Thank you so much, Susan. Before I do end this interview, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us, to share to our viewers who may be watching?
It would just be, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Remember that we are all connected. We are all human beings living on this planet, sharing these resources, and what's good for you is good for me. What's good for me is good for you. So let's do everything we can to lift each other up and support each other. Would be my message.